This Lent, 2021, the Carmelite Sisters of Baltimore have invited 5 people to share their prophetic dream, their hope for a transformed world. Our prophetic dreamer for the 4th Sunday of Lent is Father Mikhail Woodruffe, O.Carm.
Lift every voice and sing. My name is Mikhail Woodruffe, as you would have heard at the beginning, a Carmelite friar, and I'm really grateful for the invitation from our sisters at Baltimore Carmel to do this reflection on this 4th Sunday in Lent. Greetings to you from Trinidad and Tobago, our Carmelite friars here who have shared a long history of good friendship with the sisters at Baltimore Carmel. The song Lift Every Voice and Sing, I heard for the first time probably 3 or 4 years ago when I was doing ministry at St. Martin of Tours Parish on North Capitol Street in DC. And having never heard the song before, it touched my soul in a certain way that I knew there was something really special about that song. I would later learn from those who were legends in the parish, those who were involved in music ministry, how historical and how powerful that song was, often known as the Black Anthem in the United States. That song spoke to my soul in a way that I started to realize that I was connected with these sisters and brothers who were born in a different country but shared similar ancestral background as my own. Being from the Caribbean, being of Afro-Caribbean descent, and being with these sisters and brothers who were African American, on a spiritual level, we shared something that words could not describe. And as I think of these words, lift every voice and sing, I think about that common ancestry we all have as humans, as beloved children of God. What is God calling you and calling each of us to lift in this difficult and uncertain time? How could your lifting help us all move towards the transformed world that God calls us to? I think about what the last year and a half has brought us when it comes to lifting. We've had the lifting of bodies, very sadly and tragically, as a result of COVID-19 deaths. We've had the lifting of voices and the lifting of placards throughout the United States, voices that have said, Black Lives Matter. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, we've had the lifting of voices and the lifting of placards speaking about the need to respect women, the rights of women, as a result of an increase in violence against women. What is God calling us to lift? Our gospel for this 4th Sunday of Lent speaks about Moses who lifted the serpent in the desert. And the gospel speaks of the Son of God who must be lifted up. How is God calling us to lift our voices, to lift our hopes for this new world, as Moses lifted the very sign of death, the serpent in the desert, became an instrument of healing, as Jesus lifted on the cross, brought redemption to humanity. We had a voice lifted some time ago, which really brought a lot of healing to many. Amanda Gorman stepped onto the inauguration stage, and she said, when days come, where can we find light in the never-ending shade? And I'm sure it has felt like a never-ending shade for many. She encouraged us to look at what is before us. And that is what I think a prophetic dreamer does. We celebrate what has come before us and what we have now, but we also look with anticipation what is before us. As we understand in theology, the sense of not yet, that we continue working towards the bringing of the kingdom and knowing that there's this continual sense of not yet, but we do not give up. How is God calling us to lift those in society who feel marginalized and oppressed in so many ways? How are we called to lift our eyes towards those who we fear, shun, and ignore? How are we called to allow God to lift ourselves up, our spirits up in times where we feel so distressed and alone? Maya Angelou seemed to pave the way for Amanda Gorman when Maya spoke about I will rise, that individual rising that we all are called to do in our own weakness. So much so that Amanda could speak about we will rise, we as a common humanity. Going back to that St. Martin of Tours parish, that was a place that really showed me the sense of the vision of hope of what humanity could be, where people of so many different backgrounds, different races, different persuasions of all sorts came together to worship. The vision of a new world and new hope is that we could live together as one human family, lifting one another up. As Amanda told us in her powerful poem, there is always light. Light that we're called to lift up if only we're brave enough to see it, and even more so if we're only brave enough to be that light. May we lift every voice, our collective voices, and sing.
We hope you can join us next week for the 5th Sunday of Lent, when our prophetic dreamer will be Sister Teresa Maya, CCVI.